It's me, Timmy Flyersguy, and welcome to the latest episode of the Timmy Flyersguy podcast. I'm your host, Timmy Flyersguy. In today's episode, we're going to take you back to a simpler time. A time when all was right in the world of Flyers hockey. A season near and dear to every Philadelphia Flyers fan's heart. And that was the 2009-2010 Philadelphia Flyers season. A season that started out with high expectations, which then turned into lower expectations, but then got higher as the season went along. The season started out, Flyers signed Chris Pronger to the Philadelphia Flyers. They also signed goaltender Ray Emery and many other fresh faces. The Philadelphia Flyers also signed Brian Boucher as the backup goaltender to starting goalie Ray Emery. The Philadelphia Flyers season started out promising with an overtime victory over the Washington Capitals when John Stevens was still coaching the team. The Philadelphia Flyers also had a very good preseason as well. They impressed very well in the preseason game. Dan Cortillo had a fight, and he knocked out Colin Fraser in the process. Also in the preseason, a lot of young players got their start in the preseason. Philadelphia Flyers started out very well. They beat the Washington Capitals but lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins by a goal. They then played the Boston Bruins, which ended up going to a epic shootout by the Philadelphia Flyers. James Van Riemsdyk got his first goal as a Philadelphia Flyer in that game, and Corey Giroux looked good as well as he became a mainstay of the Philadelphia Flyers in the 2010-09-10 season. Although the Flyers did pretty well, the losses started coming, and the losses started to accumulate, starting with a road trip back in early November when the Philadelphia Flyers played the Phoenix Coyotes, the San Jose Sharks, and many other Western Conference teams. The Flyers had an unsuccessful road trip, and when they came back to Philadelphia to face off against the Florida Panthers, the Philadelphia Flyers were a depleted hockey team, and the injuries started to pile for the Philadelphia Flyers. I remember firsthand what it was like when John Stevens got fired and Peter Laviolette was brought in to coach this Flyers team. The Flyers team that had so many losses before the Olympic break. Flyers lost a big game to the Florida Panthers 5-2. Ryan Boucher was injured, and Michael Leighton came in to take over as starting goalie. Ray Emery, and prior to this, Ray Emery had an injury and was out for many months as Michael Leighton and Brian Boucher took over the goaltending duties for most of the games. The Philadelphia Flyers lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins in the shootout, but actually played pretty good with their depleted roster. The Flyers still found ways to win games. I can recall one game that the Flyers played, and this was right after the holiday break as the Philadelphia Flyers took on the New York Rangers and beat the New York Rangers heavily. The Philadelphia Flyers then went on to Fenway Park to play the Boston Bruins in the first ever. Play the Boston Bruins in the second ever Winter Classic. The Philadelphia Flyers played great in that game as it was a defensive battle between the Flyers and the Bruins. And the first time ever we've seen a fight in the Winter Classic game as Dan Carcillo and Sean Thornton dropped the gloves. Dan Carcillo got the best of Sean Thornton. The Philadelphia Flyers got the first goal, making it 1-0, and then Boston tied it up. The Flyers lost in overtime, but they got a point out of that game and played well at Fenway Park. Things started getting a little better for the Flyers as they faced off against the New Jersey Devils in January. The New Jersey Devils. In the month of New Jersey Devils, the Philadelphia Flyers were down 3 goals and managed to tie the score up to force overtime. Simone Gagne got the overtime game winner, and the Flyers beat the New Jersey Devils at the Prudential Center for the first time in 2 years. The Philadelphia Flyers then continued to have their struggles with the Pittsburgh Penguins, but they did manage to get at least one win against the Penguins in Pittsburgh. The Flyers then had a tough back-to-back series with the Montreal Canadiens. The Philadelphia Flyers beat the Canadiens in both games, and the Flyers, everything was starting to turn around for the Philadelphia Flyers. It all started during the Olympic break when the Flyers were actually a good team. They were still out of the playoff run, but they were winning games, and they kept winning games. You had a game against the New York Islanders, which the Flyers got beat real bad. Bradley Cote lost the fight, and the Flyers lost the New York Islanders. They then lost the game against the Montreal Canadiens 1-0, but came back Sunday later and beat them. They beat the Detroit Red Wings in a great game, which the Flyers won that game, but even though Detroit was out shooting the Flyers heavily in that game. Michael Leighton was the saving grace for the Philadelphia Flyers, as he played well in almost every game the Flyers had. Brian Boucher played well also, stopping puck after puck and having probably some of the greatest games that he has ever played. The Philadelphia Flyers were in big trouble as their chances of making the playoffs were falling short until the Flyers started racking up wins. They needed just only 2 more wins. They needed just only 1 win to make the playoffs. They faced off against the Rangers at Madison Square Garden, and they lost to the Rangers in the first game. I was worried, and a lot of Flyers fans were worried as well. They kept thinking, can the Flyers do it? Can we turn it around and make the playoffs? Well, we found out it was on a Sunday in the month of April. The Philadelphia Flyers were facing off against the New York Rangers at the Wells Fargo Center. The crowd was nervous, but the crowd was also excited to see what the Flyers can do. The crowd was roaring that day. Everybody was cheering. Everybody was screaming, "Let's go Flyers! Let's go Flyers!" The fans were excited, but also nervous. They were nervous that maybe this would be the last time we'd see the Flyers play this season. Things were looking grim as the Rangers the Rangers got off to a quick start. I think with a 2-goal lead. Jody Shelley for the New York Rangers got the first 2 goals. But the Flyers weren't done yet. Ian Perrier got into a fight with Aaron Boros of the New York Rangers. Perrier won that fight, and the crowd was ecstatic and ready. Actually, the Flyers were losing 1-0. The Flyers crowd was ecstatic that Ian Perrier had won that fight. The Flyers had continued. They managed to tie the score at 1-1. The Wells Fargo Center crowd went crazy as the Flyers tied it up. The score was tied at 1-1 going into overtime. The Flyers team was nervous. The crowd was nervous. Henrik Lundqvist and Brian Boucher stole the show as they made save after save until that horn sounded going into a shootout. The Flyers were ready. The Rangers were ready. It was all on the line in the shootout. Who will win it? Jim Jackson said, "The pressure on these guys, it's a lot of pressure. It sure is high right now. Let's see if they can do it." The first shooter for the Philadelphia Flyers was number 48, Danny Briere. Danny Briere went in, shoots, and he scores. Takes a 1-0 lead in the shootout. Then the Rangers go next. They skate in, Boucher with the save. The Flyers have a 1-0 lead in the shootout. Next shooter for the Flyers was number 18, Mike Richards. With number 28, Claude Giroux. Claude Giroux went in, made a nifty move, got the puck right past Lundqvist. Flyers take a 2-0 lead in the shootout. Next shooter for the Rangers goes in, shoots, saved by Boucher. And then it was up to number 18, Mike Richards. Mike Richards went in and made a great move, but Lundqvist stopped him, as Lundqvist still had some fight left in him. Next shooter for the Rangers was Pierre Parenteau. Pierre Parenteau went in, shot it and scored. The crowd began to get nervous. The crowd began to feel the momentum slipping away. Until Olli Jokinen went in, tried to take a shot. Boucher makes a save. The crowd goes crazy, and the Philadelphia Flyers make the playoffs. The Rangers have eliminated. The whole crowd goes crazy. The whole crowd starts to hug each other and congratulate each other. It's the closest I've ever seen Miss Philadelphia City Evergreen. It's the happiest I've ever seen Miss Philadelphia crowd. The Flyers began their playoffs. Their first opponent, the New Jersey Devils. The Philadelphia Flyers won game one, lost game 2. Then won game 3 and 4, taking a 3-1 lead in the series. The Flyers then had to close out the series in Newark, New Jersey, as they took on the New Jersey Devils in game 5. The New Jersey Devils could not get anything past the Philadelphia Flyers. I can remember Ian Perrier making one of the biggest sacrifices he's ever made as a hockey. He has ever made as a hockey player. Eli Kovalchuk took a hard slap shot. The yellow Perrier blocked the shot with his face. Yellow Perrier made the ultimate sacrifice for his hockey team. It was a good play by LaPerriere, but it cost him a lot of games as he went down with an injury. He was taken off the ice. But the Flyers had eliminated the New Jersey Devils. Their next opponent was a pretty tough opponent, as the Flyers took on the big bad Boston Bruins. In Game 1, it was a back and forth, as the Philadelphia Flyers tied the score up to force overtime. But Mark Savard wasn't having any of it, as he scored in overtime to give the Bruins a win in the first game. The Flyers then had more of the same in the second game, as it was a very close game. The Flyers could not beat Boston, as Boston took a win in Game 2. Game 3, then things started to go a little south for the Flyers, as in Game 3, the Philadelphia Flyers, they got a goal by Aaron Asham, but the Boston Bruins were just too much for the Flyers in Game 3. The Flyers were in big trouble, as they were down three games to none. In Game 4, the Flyers finally picked up a win. They finally picked up a win with a goal by Simon Gagne in overtime. Philadelphia Flyers in overtime. Philadelphia Flyers made it to Game 5, and they shut the Bruins out in Game 5. Philadelphia Flyers narrowed the series lead to 3-2, as the Flyers won Game 4 and Game 5. The Philadelphia Flyers then went back to Philly after shutting the Bruins in Boston in Game 5. The Philadelphia Flyers won Game 6 with a goal by Claude Giroux in overtime. The Philadelphia Flyers then made it to Game 7 as they faced off against the Boston Bruins in Boston. It was a do-or-die mentality for the Flyers. They had to win this game. They weren't going to be denied. They weren't going to lose this game. The Flyers went out there. As soon as that puck dropped, Boston took an early 3-0 lead. The Flyers were down 3-0. But the Flyers were able to get a goal to narrow the score to 3-1. The Flyers then scored another goal, making it 3-2, making it just a 3-2 score. The crowd in Boston, they were happy about where their team played, but they were getting nervous. Something was awry. Something was not going right. The Flyers didn't manage to tie the score at 3-3. In the third period, on a power play for the Philadelphia Flyers, the greatest thing happened. Simon Gagne scored the game-winning goal to give the Flyers a 4-3 lead. The Philadelphia Flyers had eliminated the Bruins. In historic fashion, the Philadelphia Flyers did what no team could have done in a long time since the Islanders did back in the 1970s. Philadelphia Flyers beat the Bruins, and the city of Philadelphia was ecstatic. The city of Philadelphia was happy. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was honking their horns. Everyone in Philly was happy, and it was one of the greatest moments in Philadelphia Flyers history. Although it may not be able to compare The Lemon Flyers won 2 Stanley Cups. But let me tell you, in my opinion, it should be one of the greatest moments in Flyers history. The Philadelphia Flyers then played the Montreal Canadiens. The Philadelphia Flyers dominated the Canadiens in games 1 and 2, but lost game 3. Even though they lost game 3, the Flyers were not going down by a fight, as there was a brawl at the end of game 3, where many Flyers and Canadians were going at it. This reminded a lot of fans of the old rough and tough Broad Street Bully style of hockey. The Philadelphia Flyers had a surge of energy going into Game 4 as they beat the Canadiens in Game 4. They came back to Philly for Game 5 and then beat the Montreal Canadiens again. The Flyers had beaten the Montreal Canadiens in 5 games. And they did. And another great moment is the Philadelphia Flyers became the Eastern Conference champions. And the Flyers did what they did. The Flyers had made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. Something they didn't do. Something they did. Something they didn't do since they made it to the Stanley Cup Finals back in '97 when they played the Detroit Red Wings. A lot of Flyers fans were happy about this. A lot of Flyers fans thought this could be the year. This could be the year that the Philadelphia Flyers become Stanley Cup champions. But their opponents were a tough team. Their opponents were the red-hot Chicago Blackhawks. A team that hadn't won a Stanley Cup since haven't won the Stanley Cup since the 1960s. So the Flyers faced off against Chicago in Game 1. Game 1 was a bit of a back and forth game. A track meet game, if you will. The Philadelphia Flyers lost to the Blackhawks in games 1 and 2. They came back to Philly and won games 3 and games 4. They lost game 5, and then they lost game 6 in overtime, and the Chicago Blackhawks beat the Philadelphia Flyers to win the Stanley Cup. It was a tough loss for the city of Philadelphia, but the city was proud of the Philadelphia Flyers, proud that they had made it so far. A lot of people didn't expect the Philadelphia Flyers to make it that far. But the Philadelphia Flyers, they defied all the odds. They helped the city, this team, this 09-10 Philadelphia Flyers team, helped the city of Philadelphia believe again. Many of us want to believe again. Many of us want to have a moment like that again. Many of us yearn for that moment. Many of us aspire to be a part of that moment. Nobody knows when the Flyers will ever do that again. Nobody knows. I don't even know. But I just wanted to talk about that season because it's one of my favorite Flyer seasons of all time. It's one of the seasons where I started to believe that anything could happen. We don't even know when a moment like that will ever happen again. But when it does, I hope the Flyers go all the way next time. And I hope they do well. With all the troubles this team's been having, with the coaching staff, the organization, it's good to look back on the good times. The good times when we believed in Flyers hockey. The good times when we believed. The good times when we believed that this Flyers hockey team can do anything if they work hard and if they try their best. I look at this Flyer season as the first Rocky movie. In Rocky 1, Rocky Balboa went the distance. He didn't win, but he tried his best. And he went the distance. The Philadelphia Flyers did exactly what Rocky Balboa did. They may not won the championship. They may not won the Stanley Cup. But the Philadelphia Flyers, they had themselves a Rocky Balboa moment when they made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. A lot of us fans are hoping that one day we'll have a Rocky 2 moment. I'm Timmy Flyersguy, and thank you for joining me down this walk down memory lane. Remember, everyone, I know it's frustrating being a Flyers fan right now, but at the end of the day, we have to realize that it's just a game. And we can't stress ourselves out about a game. I know that we want our team to do well. Believe me, I want that too. But we can't get stressed out over a game. It's a hockey game. At the end of the day, we have to remember that. And when hockey ends, when Flyers hockey is done and the season's over, we gotta remember that life goes on and there will be another season. I'm Timmy Flyersguy, and this has been this week's edition of the Timmy Flyersguy podcast entitled Reliving the 09-10 Philadelphia Flyers season. I hope everybody has a wonderfully gritty day, and remember, don't stress, because if you stress yourself out, you'll make yourself sick, and then you won't feel good, and you don't want that. It's good to be healthy and not stressed out, especially considering what's been going on in the world lately. So stay healthy and don't stress, Philly. Our time will come. And let me tell you, it's gonna be pretty sweet. Thank you for joining me, everybody. Have a wonderful day, everyone. And remember, like there's always next year. All hope is not lost. Hope may be lost on this season, but there's always another chance to make things right. Also, I want everybody to, right here, before I end this video, I'm gonna do a subscriber shout out to my good friend, Cryptic Cowboy. I suggest you check out his YouTube channel. He's got his own podcast on there as well. He is a huge Flyers fan, He also does a lot of video game type videos as well. So I suggest you check him out. He is one bad hombre, and I mean that in a good way. So everyone check out Cryptic Cowboy. Also, if you like to relive classic commercials, I suggest you check out the YouTube channel Commercial City and Ethan's TV Junkyard. Thank you for joining me on Timmy Flyersguy. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and thank you for letting me share my happiness with each and every one of you and how I felt during 09-10 season. Thank you. Remember, yeah.